Early with Mark Ruffalo, that the theme was best friends. Does anyone know when National Best Friends Day is?
You see it on Instagram. You post.
Ah, how long was it recently?
I don't remember.
Okay, anybody want to take a guess? It was the 15th of August. It was National Best Friends Day. I'm surprised you guys weren't out celebrating. Like, what's going on? Well, actually, I didn't know that until I did the research for this talk, so I'm not really in a position to be critical. Today what we're going to do is we're going to look at the issue of friendship. And I think it's an important issue for two main reasons. Firstly, I think a lot of people in the world are wrestling with what constitutes a good friendship or a friend. So what actually does that look like? What are the deciding factors on whether someone is an acquaintance or a friend or maybe just somebody you're not going to have any interaction with? How do you figure that out? And you'll hear a lot of discussions about friendships, particularly when they go wrong, right? That's often when you hear about them. Oh, my friend is driving me nuts because of whatever. The second thing is, it's my observation in the context of my ministry, and this is supported by social research as well, is that as cities become, as Canada becomes more and more urbanized, so less people living out in small villages and small towns, they're moving into the big cities, then people, oddly enough, are actually becoming lonelier, which is weird. You know, you got a population density that's 50 times bigger than the town you came from, say in Toronto, and yet people in Toronto can be lonely. So for those two reasons, the fact that sometimes we wrestle with what a true friend is, and the fact that notwithstanding whatever your understanding of friendship might be, people do seem to be getting lonelier. That's why we're going to look at this issue of friendship today. Now it's a follow-on from some of the work we did earlier. So one week, Mike talked about, it's the theme of love. So Mike talked about loving God and sort of the idea of what is the nature of the relationship between the creator and the created. So that's a very important question we need to ask ourselves. And then 3 weeks ago, I looked at loving our enemies. And I did that on the anniversary of the September 11th Twin Tower attacks. And sort of what is an appropriate response as people who are followers of Christ, or for anyone really, to the circumstances surrounding 9/11. Then last week, Mike looked at loving others. So that's a broader group, right? Others could include our friends, it could include enemies, it could include acquaintances or people that we kind of know but not really well. It's very inclusive. This week, I'm going to zoom back in again. So we zoomed out, we zoomed in, we zoomed out. We're going to zoom back in. I hope you're not getting dizzy. Is anyone falling out of their chair? Okay, good. All right. They're pretty stable chairs. If you're on a stool, it's a little harder. You might lose me partway through. So we're going to zoom in. And what we're going to zoom in on is our relationship with people we call friends. That's the theme for today. We're going to do it in 4 steps. We're going to look at some perspectives on friendship. We're going to then move into a biblical example of friendship, one that is particularly good, I think, we can learn a lot from. We're going to look at the issue of being friends with God. And then finally, we've got a challenge time at the end. So those are the 4 parts. What is friendship? A biblical example. What does it mean to be friends with Jesus Christ? And then finally, a challenge time. Now, some of you may have noticed my shirt matches that logo. My daughter Victoria got me this shirt, and I thought, man, this is kind of an irreverent kind of shirt, you know, like using gang language to talk about God, right? So I thought, well, I'm going to actually look up what a homeboy is, and I did. It's actually not a bad fit. So the question is, what is a homeboy or homegirl? You know, my homie. You know, you've heard that term. What is it? Anybody?
Friend.
A friend. Who said that? Very good. Yeah. What else?
Somebody you can talk to and trust.
Trust. Very good. We're going to come to that in a minute. Qualities of friendship. Very good, Lorraine. Yeah. What else? If I said this is, I call Chris up. Chris is my homeboy. What do I mean?
Your
Yeah.
wingman or your wingwoman.
Very good, Ruby. My wingman or wingwoman. It implies maybe there's a bit of dependence, right, on each other. Is that strong a connection? That there's maybe you're somewhat dependent on each other for certain things. That's good. What else? Holly. Yeah, it could mean you're a gangster. Very good. And that term, homeboy, has a very strong gang connotation to it in certain cultural settings. Yes, Esther.
I'm not entirely sure, but I'm very fixated with the word home. So
Yeah.
is someone you can feel as when you are at home?
Okay, you hit on a key point, which is, one of the definitions is it's somebody who came from the same neighborhood as you, so that idea of community. So we say, you know, if I met in fact, Kenneth Mack, who's in our Toastmasters club, he's the president of the club I'm in. He went to the same high school I did. Now, he went many, many years later than I did. More than 2, let's just say that. And he's a homeboy, because he's from St. John, New Brunswick. Okay, sorry, I just get excited.
What I mean is not that definition of home, but more
Yeah.
like you feel comfortable
Yeah.
for being yourself.
Yeah.
being who you
Okay,
are.
that's good. Thank you, yeah. So that you feel comfortable with it. You feel like it's a homey kind of relationship, like family almost. Justin?
Someone who's got your back, you know.
Oh, very good. Someone who's got your back. And we are going to look at that in spades today. So very good. You are getting the gold. If I had a gold star, you would get it today. So. Yeah, you and Lorraine for pulling out trust. Those are the 2 gold stars for today. Okay, good. So homeboy, here are the 3 definitions I found. So you take a look at them. You guys. A boy or a man from your own neighborhood or hometown, a member of your gang, and a close male friend. So Jesus was like Jesus and the disciples, you know. And I'm sure if they're like they all have Harleys with big jackets, you know, Jesus and the disciples, and tats, you know, big long hair. Well, they had long hair anyway, so it was good. So in a way, Jesus was part of a gang. He started a gang. It was the 12 apostles, and they started a church, and they created more gangs. And here's a gang today, right? Close male friend, absolutely. We're going to look at that in more detail later. And a boy or a man from your own neighborhood or hometown. Now, unless any of you were born in Bethlehem, that one doesn't work. Anybody born in Bethlehem? No? None of you had a star over you? Yes?
My grandpa was born in Bethlehem.
New York? Or what is it?
It was
Bethlehem?
in
Maryland?
Palestine in 1907.
No way! Get out of town. I did not expect to get any kind of an answer to that question. Born in Palestine and when?
1907.
1907. Wow. That's amazing.
And his name was Joseph.
Oh
my goodness!
Give her brother name, never mind. Not gonna happen. Joseph. Okay, and the mom's Mary. I get it.
His mom's name was Mary and his dad.
Oh,
It's very.
Get out of
that is so totally cool. Wow. Okay, so Vicky is getting definitely 2 gold stars today for that. Right, so my daughter got me this T-shirt. Jesus is my homeboy. It's a great discussion starter. I'll be in a grocery store and line people go, "Oh, that's a cool shirt," and it just opens up a very cool discussion. Or maybe somebody who's from a little more conservative background, and you can tell they're kind of looking at you, a Christian background, and they're like, "Who is this irreverent person here?" Right? So it's a good discussion starter. And I mentioned a few weeks ago that I don't know how this came up. Somebody mentioned it during the talk, my shirt. I said, "Well, I'll do a talk on it." I've actually done a talk on this once before, about 6 years ago. But I started from scratch. I didn't copy anything in the last one. All right. We're going to go deeper, like this guy. Well, maybe not that deep, but we're going to go deep. What are the most important characteristics in a good, healthy friendship? And if it helps, think of your bestie. Now, not the bestie like in Big Bang Theory, where the really nerdy girl thinks that, what's the blonde's name?
Bernadette. Penny.
Penny is her bestie, but she's really not. You know?
Oh.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Who's the nerdy girl?
Bernadette thinks Penny is her.
No, it's the other girl, the dark-haired girl.
Oh,
Amy. Amy thinks that
Penny.
Penny is her bestie, but I don't think it's a mutual. Okay, but think of a real bestie, somebody who's like your bestie. All right. So, what are the characteristics in a good, healthy friendship? Anybody? Vicky? Trust. Okay, and Lorraine mentioned that earlier. That was good. Lloyd?
Communication.
Oh boy, absolutely, buddy. Yes, communication. Very good. I have that one down here. Understanding, which is a bit like sort of compassion, or they can kind of sympathy. They can see where you are, right? Respect. Empathy. So you got empathy and sympathy. Sympathy is when you've been through it, so you understand it. Empathy is when you haven't been through it, but you can kind of feel, you have compassion for them, right? Anybody else? Characteristics. Celeste, come on. Who's your bestie? Well, you don't have to say it here, okay? But
You're fun together.
loyalty. Very good. All right. So let's take this a bit further. No, I got to drill down a bit. We're going deep. Okay, ready? Celeste, we're going deep. Get your mask on. We're going down. Okay?
Oh,
okay?
I do.
Yeah,
I do
okay.
have a license.
Okay, so what you do. All right, so you're at high school, and your bestie is whoever it is, and you're in the cafeteria, and a bunch of your friends are dissing your bestie. What do you do? What do you do?
Defend them.
probably wouldn't have.
Okay, that's an example of loyalty, right? Is standing by people when other people maybe are distant or being disrespectful. Very good. So that was excellent. Loyalty is awesome. And it's not on my list. I'm going to add it later. Okay, good. What else? Yes, okay, that's good. Yeah. What else?
And I probably meet them outside of.
Yeah, and then you just sort them out. Yeah. Okay, good. No, I'm just kidding. No sorting out. That's stuff.
Honesty.
Honesty, yeah, you got to be candid with them. I'm going to talk about that a bit when I put up a photo of one of my besties. I have a number of besties, but the person I'm going to illustrate, whose photo will show up, is an example. There's an example here of very candid conversations between the two of us on a regular basis to keep ourselves sort of where we need to be. So that's very good. Honesty is a good characteristic. Anybody else? Yes, Justin.
Your best man or best woman or best in the wedding.
Oh yeah, so they could have a position of honor at some point, right? Absolutely, yeah. So normally you would invite your bestie in to be your best man or your maid of honor. Okay, help me. I've got a wedding. Okay. So when Winnie and I got married back in 1987, I mean some of you were not even like in diapers then, but anyways, back when we got married, I invited my bestie at the time, a guy named Lawrence, to be in our wedding, and he was going to be my best man. We were both in the military, but he got caught doing something bad on a course, and he was sent home, and then he was put on duty over the whole Christmas leave period, which is when we got married. So I couldn't use him as my bestie because he was not being on his best behavior, actually, is what happened. So I had to get another buddy who was also very close to do that. But yeah, they can do things like be in weddings, or maybe if you're having an anniversary or something, they'll maybe organize your birthday party. So they're people who can kind of step in a sort of protocol way for you, which is kind of cool. That's good. What else? I mean, you guys have really nailed this, man. You've just pretty much exhausted my list. Let's see what I missed. Oh, common interests. So you have some stuff you like to do together, right? Yes, Celeste, you're going to say
I
something.
was about to say one of the things that you taught us before about spending quality time.
Yes. Okay, so you actually have to hang out with them or have some kind of communication with them, right? Now, in my case, I was in the military, and a lot of my besties, I have a lot of besties. I have one bestie. She's sitting over there. Okay, that's her. That's the bestie. Okay. Then I have a bunch of like next level besties I'm not married to. Okay. And those guys, like sometimes I don't see them for 10 years. I might see them like at an RMC reunion. I saw people I hadn't seen for 5 or 10 or more years. And the thing about the military is they train you to pick up fast where you left off. So even though I haven't seen them for a long time, we haven't been in communication, we're able to reconnect very quickly and do that. So spending quality time with them is very important. Hanging out, right? Otherwise, you kind of lose touch with each other and you drift apart, right? So that's very good. What else did I have? All the stuff on my list you guys already covered, other than common interests. So we're good. All right. Any other points on that one? Oh, good. Okay. So now what it is, I'll share you a little bit about one of my besties. He might be familiar to you. They might be familiar. Okay. Now it's true. He is a bit follically challenged.
You can do better, Steve.
But he does shave. Okay, so that's part of it. Okay.
It's gone to Brunswick, right?
No, he went to Alberta. He went the other way.
Okay.
Almost the same distance the other way.
Steve,
Yeah.
this is about best friend, man.
Yeah, I know. But I'm recording it as public, and Gerald will see it, so I have to, no. So, funny story about Gerald and I. We met at a Toastmasters meeting in 2006. So I came back from Australia. I wanted to get into a club. I went to a Wednesday night club that Gerald was a part of. I didn't know him before that. And the night I went, he spoke. And he actually gave a very Christian speech, which you're allowed to do in Toastmasters. You can talk about anything you want as long as you're respectful to other people. His was almost like a sermon, 5 to 7 minute sermon. I thought, man, this guy must be a Christian. And I love how he speaks. He was a great speaker. I got to talk to him because I'm trying to start a church. And if I'm away, I need a fill-in speaker. This guy would be perfect. So what happened was we exchanged, emails. And then 6 months later, I needed a fill-in speaker. So I phoned Gerald up, and it turns out that was like the worst day of his life. The day I phoned him. He had left a job at I won't say the name of the place, but he had a bad work experience. He was very upset, and he was feeling down, and he was just at the kind of lowest point of his life. And then he gets this phone call from me, and we ended up on an 8-year journey together until they left for Alberta. Well, he left in January, and then they came back for a little bit in the summer, and then he made his way out to Alberta with an agent. So Gerald's been beside me the whole 8 years that we were involved in this church life, pretty much. The only part he missed was the first 5 or 6 months. He was the main speaker for most Sundays, as many of you recall. He served on the official board. But most importantly, we hung out together. We did a lot of stuff together. He wanted to get his theology degree done. I said, I'll help you do that. Tell me what you need. So I would review essays for him. I helped him with presentations. Just encourage him when he was feeling down or he was stressed because of exams. We did all kinds of stuff. We ran events together. We helped develop other members of our church in leadership together and help people along in their spiritual journey. In fact, there are people in this room today whose relationship with God is a direct result of Gerald being in their life. Right? It's a pretty awesome guy. Now, I miss Gerald heaps. And I probably talk to him once a week. I was emailing him, call. We stay in touch. And so Gerald is one of my besties. One of my besties. And I miss hanging out with him, I'll be quite frank with you. But I know no matter what happens, no matter how far we're apart, where we are, that connection will pick up right away. So Gerald is my bestie. He's trustworthy. He's fun to hang around with. We have common interests. He looks out for me. I look out for him. We're honest with each other. This is a big thing, right? Because Gerald and I both have some faults. You're probably not aware of that. I'm sorry if this is very disturbing for you to find this out for the first time. But we actually have some faults. And Gerald and I can honestly come to each other and say, okay, you know what? Like my big one is I'm pig-headed. Okay, so I'm very heavy on the IQ and not so hot on the EQ sometimes, the emotional quotient versus the intelligent quotient. So sometimes I got this great idea and I said, Gerald, this is what we're going to do. And he goes, well, Steve, some people might be offended by that, or you know, some people might feel like their opinions not being considered. And Gerald was really good for forcing me to check in and look at my motivations for doing stuff and come up with a better answer or better solution to whatever the issue was. So Gerald, great guy. Luckily, just before he left, he sent me his brother. So we're all set. Darren is here. Let's hear from Darren. Yeah. So we still have some McCaffreys around. It was confusing for a couple of months because we kept announcing a barbecue at the McCaffreys, and Gerald ended up having a heart attack because they're about to move, right? I said, Gerald, remember, you brought your brother and sister-in-law here, okay? There are more than one McCaffrey family, or there is more than one McCaffrey family at the church now. So to summarize then, friends are people we trust. They're people we spend time with. They're people who've got our back and whose back we have. They're people that we're loyal to and they're loyal to us. They're people we make a significant investment in time with. And they're people that at the end of the day we can go to them and have a difficult discussion if we have to, right? Communication, that important piece that Lloyd mentioned earlier, is absolutely fundamental. So those are just that's an example from my own life of somebody who's very special to me. I'm sure all of you probably have somebody like a Gerald in your life. What we're going to do now, though, is we're going to look at a biblical example of a friendship, because I think there's a lot we can learn about friendship from the story that I'm about to share with you. So again, I'm going to show you a picture. Just a word of caution, the artist who did this picture wasn't present when the events took place. This is a historical sort of, reinterpretation. Okay? No photos back in, whatever, 2500 BC. So here we go. David and Jonathan, right? Who said that? Lorraine did, right? Yeah. So who knows anything about this story? What can you tell us about these two friends? Anybody? Esther, go ahead.
I remember that they are really close to each other, even though Jonathan's father, who is Saul,
Yes.
did not actually like David.
Yep.
And Jonathan actually protected David's life multiple times, and the Bible actually states that Jonathan loved David.
Yes.
Almost as so as he is himself.
Very good, yeah. So in addition to being friends, they had this tension in that Saul, who was the king, initially, he wasn't a good choice. Initially he followed God, then he just kind of drifted. And he initially appreciated David. David had killed Goliath and helped defeat the Philistines. David was a great leader. He was a very talented musician. He had all these things about David. But I think there's perhaps some jealousy there, because David had a very special relationship with God. Some people have surmised that Saul might have had mental health issues because of the behavior that's demonstrated in his personality. Who knows? Maybe it's just a cultural thing, that some of the things Saul did were more acceptable back then, I don't know. But the bottom line is there was a tension, and the tension was rooted in the fact that Saul, on multiple occasions, tried to kill David.
That's the son? Is that his son?
No, that's so Jonathan is Saul's son.
Oh.
Okay? So multiple times the father, Saul, tried to kill David, and Jonathan intervened to protect him. Right? That was basically the gist of the story. So this story is a fascinating story about friendship. We're going to look at a little bit why that is. So thanks for that, Esther. That was great. So this story comes from 1 Samuel 18, the first few verses. 1 to 4, and the entirety of 1 Samuel 20. These verses are the 1 Samuel 18, 1 to 4 piece, with verse 2 taken out because it actually doesn't speak to Bishop on okay. So you got verses 1, 3, and 4. Let me take a read for that and we'll talk about it. Oops, no, I'm dropping everything here, man. Thank you, dear. Okay, so 1 Samuel 18, verse 1, 3, and 4 says, as soon as he had finished speaking to Saul, the soul of Jonathan was knit to the soul of David. What a powerful phrase. You've heard maybe the term sometimes kindred spirits, people who are so, it's like they're not two people, they have elements of them that are one people. And that actually is God's plan for marriage, which is a very special kind of friendship. It says the two will become one. In some sense, that's what happens in a very close friendship, right? When you lose your friend, it feels like a part of you has been taken away. It's a hole in your life. I feel that with Gerald's absence, physical absence from Kingston. So their souls were knit together, which is a really fascinating analogy for the depth of their connection to each other. The other piece I think is important is they made a covenant, so a promise to love each other and look after each other. And then finally, this one's really interesting. Verse 4 says, Jonathan stripped himself of the robe that was on him and gave it to David and his armor and even his sword and his bow and his belt. So the lead up to this story is this. David has just defeated Goliath. He was a farm boy. He just showed up to bring bread to his brothers and happened to wander into the Israelite camp as they were about to have this battle. And the Israelites weren't doing anything. They just stayed on their hill and hoping the Philistines would go away. Didn't really work. And then David shows up and says, well, and they're saying, well, who will go out and fight Goliath? And they're looking around for like the biggest guy with the big muscles, like me, something like me, right? And they couldn't find him. No one wanted to go. So this little kid shows up. Like he's a young man. He's not like an 8-year-old, but he's a young man. And he shows up, and he goes, oh, I'll go. And they're like, okay, let you go. They tried to put armor on him, right? And it tells us in the story, he must have been small, because the armor totally did not fit him at all. It was like hanging off him. So he said, forget it, I want the armor. And he goes out with a sling and 5 stones, and he drops this guy. Kills him. And the interesting thing is, there's a show in the History Channel that looks at ancient weapons. Because there's a lot of historical accounts of spears that did certain things and arrows that went a certain distance, and slings that kill giants, right? So what they do on this show is they try to re-engineer those weapons and create them to see if they'll actually do what the historical accounts say. And they did that with a sling. And there's people actually even today who can use a sling. And you can easily kill somebody with a skilled slingist. No problem at all. To put a rock in someone's head and kill them can easily be done from a physics perspective. So what I would say is in this story, this wasn't necessarily a divine, it wasn't a supernatural event to put the rock in the giant's head and kill him. God was behind all this, orchestrating David being there. It wasn't like a lightning bolt came down from heaven and killed Goliath. This was, David doing what he'd done with lions and bears and other animals that tried to eat his sheep, and he killed Goliath. He killed Goliath. He killed him. So he comes back, and that's the setting for this, right? He comes back. So he went out with no armor, dropped this giant, comes back, and of course everyone's happy that the Philistine, the Goliath is dead because now they've defeated the champion and the Philistines give up. So Jonathan then says, Jonathan is the son of a king, right? So I'm assuming he's reasonably well dressed. That the quality of cloth that he has is probably much better than what that shepherd boy had who just dropped that giant. And what does Jonathan do? He takes basically all his clothes off, and he gives him his armor, which probably fits David, because it doesn't say that it was too big for him. They're probably, I'm guessing they're similar age, similar physique. It kind of makes sense that he could give him that armor, and it would be a worthwhile gift because it would actually fit. Gives him his sword and his bow and his belt. So basically now, Jonathan is totally defenseless. David's got all the weapons. And that is kind of, to me, I think there's this symbolic issue of trust going on here, right? That, look, I trust you so much that I'm going to give you all this stuff. I'm going to completely expose myself and make myself vulnerable to you. Fascinating story. Of course, as you read through the other passages of Samuel, 1 Samuel 20 talks a lot more about the subsequent events involving Saul, the father, and how he tried to kill David and what Jonathan did to save him. Tragically for Jonathan, he and his dad and brothers were killed in a battle. They were beheaded, and David lost this great friend. But David was able to survive and escape the wrath of Saul because Saul's son was willing to work even behind his own dad's back to protect David. He honored that vow that he had made on that day that David had defeated Goliath. So some things we can learn about friendship from this relationship that's described in Scripture. Now, anyone know what this is? A rope. Now, I was in Toastmasters the other day and was explaining to me this is not a rope. It's a halyard or a, what's the other one?
Sheet.
A sheet, right? It's not a rope. But it's not on a boat, so it's a rope. Okay, we all good? We all agree this is a rope. Everyone all right with that? Are there any like really nutty sailors who want to say it's a halyard or a sheet? No, okay, good. There's a great passage in Ecclesiastes chapter 4, which I love. It's one of my favorite verses about friendships in the Bible. Verse 4:12, it says, "A person standing alone can be attacked and defeated." Why? Yeah, so what happens? Where are you vulnerable? Yeah, from behind, right? Because you can't see behind you. You can only face really in one direction at a time. It says, "But two can stand back to back and conquer." Right? So when you say, "I've got your back," that's where this phrase comes from. That's what it means, literally. I've got your back. I'm protecting your back. And you really have to trust somebody to say, "Okay, I'm not going to worry about what's behind me because I'm only going to focus what's in front of me because my friend's behind me." You really got to trust them. It says, "Three are even better." Now, I don't know about your peripheral vision. I can see maybe like this peripherally, right? I can't see what's in that zone, right? So if I'm fighting somebody, not that I do that regularly, but if I'm fighting somebody, I can't see what's in this zone. But if you put three people together, they can see 360 degrees with their peripheral vision, right? So three is even better, because then you can't get surprised. Now, this passage is referring specifically to three people. There's no spiritual dimension that we're aware of or inferred from this passage. But let me leave something with you, because I think it's applicable. And it relates to the idea of friendship and our connection to God. If you have two people who have a common connection with God, then there's your three strands. And one of those strands is unbreakable. So this rope has got three strands in it, right? I did this once on stage and I almost killed somebody, so I won't do it today. I just brought regular old twine in. You know that kind of really wrinkly, stringy stuff you use to wrap garbage with? Okay, I brought that in. I had one cord of it. And then I had some people come up on stage and I had them pull and they broke it. Then I gave them another one, they broke it. I gave them another one, they broke it. Then I gave them three strands that I had woven together. Okay? And that they could not break. With a great effort. That's actually where someone almost got killed. Like, not literally, but they almost went off the stage. Because they were trying so hard to break the rope that they kind of lost control of themselves. So I'm not doing that today. I don't want any investigations or any hospitalization or ambulance visits. But when you wind these three things together, you get something. It's like 1 + 1 + 1 is something greater than 3. It's not 3. It's always going to be something greater than 3. It's like 1 + 1 is something greater than 2. That's the nature of friendship. Now, when you have two people who love the Lord, and then you have the Lord, then what you have is virtually an unbreakable rope. And that's the model of friendship we see with Jonathan and David. Because the other thing they had in common, other than the fact they were great warriors, and they were young, and they loved each other, was that they loved God. Both of them. As we read through the story, we see that both men deeply, deeply loved God. So what you had were these three strands all tied together. And this is part of the reason why we're emphasizing, mentoring at Cafe Church. And you'll know through the women's ministry, Juanita is helping women get connected to other women. Through the men's ministry, Dean and I are doing the same thing. We're trying to get it so every guy who wants to can be in a relationship, a meaningful relationship with someone who can help them along a bit, maybe encourage them in their walk, wherever they are. You know what? You don't have to be a Christian to be in a mentoring relationship in our church. Wherever you are in the spiritual spectrum, we want to provide you assistance to get to that next level. So we put a lot of emphasis on mentoring in our church. If you're not currently in a mentoring relationship and you would like to be, if you're a lady, you can talk to Anita. And if you're a guy, you can talk to myself or Dean, and we'll help set that up for you. And we'll try and get you matched up with somebody that can meet your needs. Like if you know specifically what it is that you think you want to work on, whether it's relationships or your understanding of God, or dealing with an addictions issue, whatever it is, we'll try and match you up with somebody who we think can help you in that realm. So you'll get 1 plus 1 plus 1 is 3. You will get a cord that is not easily broken. So the other thing about this relationship that I want to talk about is the extent to which they had each other's back. Now we say that phrase, we take it kind of lightly, right? We say, well, I got your back. It kind of lost its original meaning because most of the time, we're not like when you go down Princess Street, it's not like you got a sword and you're about to get ambushed, right? Or if you go down Highway 2, a bunch of robbers are going to pull you over and try and steal your car. That generally doesn't happen, right? So when you say I got your back in a modern Western culture that's reasonably well governed and law and order is generally in place, it may have lost some of its meaning, but in this time it literally meant I've got your back. People could attack you or ambush you or kill you. And so this idea here is that you're willing to defend each other's life. That you would actually, you hear the expression, take a bullet for somebody. Munir and I used to teach a marriage course years ago. It was a 5-session marriage course. And they used a couple who had been missionaries in Africa for like 30 years as kind of the case study for all the teaching points of this marriage material. And they came to this point, which is the agape love, the unconditional love that Mike talked about last week. And it was kind of cool because what happened was this missionary couple lived in, sort of standard African mud building, not a particularly fancy building. And one night they were at home, and the area they were in was prone to violence. And they were in their living room, and they were standing, and a burst of machine gun fire came through the window. And this was, like, machine gun fire in this neck of the woods was not unusual. But have it come in your house? So they're asking the lady how she knew her husband had agape love for her. And what she said was, when he threw me to the floor and landed on me, then I knew. Right, so it's right to life and death. That's the important piece. And we see that with Jonathan David. If Saul had found out all this stuff that Jonathan was doing to protect David, he probably would have killed his own son. He was that crazy. But Jonathan took that risk. And it also is about making sacrifices. Now, most of us are probably not going to have to throw our lives on the line for our friends in the next day, week, year, I suspect. But there are little sacrifices we may need to make from time to time. And so it can't all be about me, what's in it for me. It has to be about making sacrifices for others to help meet some of their needs from time to time. So you give a bit of yourself up every time you're with your friend. Just like Jonathan did with David. He gave him his robes, he gave him his weapon, his bow. All those things were very valuable, right? And exposed himself and made him vulnerable. And this is an important part of true friendship as well. Now this next video I got, I love it. It's kind of hokey, but I love it. It's called Jesus is My Homeboy, and it captures a little bit of what we've been talking about today. So I'm going to show this to you. And Holly, if you could just make sure our audio is good.
I got love Jesus. I got love Jesus. I got love Jesus. My homeboy. I got love Jesus. 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 Yeah. Jesus is my homeboy. I got love Jesus. Jesus is my homeboy. Jesus is my homeboy. I got love for Jesus. Jesus is my homeboy. I love Jesus. I gotta get that physical. One time I saw he kept us guard and now I got my nigga. I don't lost my job, I walked away, but Jesus got me set up. One time to bag, he hit my back, cause I ended and I hit him. He the best of me, you try to flex on me, but can't be my daughter and second. We don't shut the mess, we're too blessed for that, so say AZ, you let it. You can't shut the mess, my testament, prove that God is the greatest. You can throw a brick, you can throw a rock, now the edge goes top for a phantom. Cause he paid the leg and I'm on the run, I'ma call my boy, tell him call my son. He clap nuts like he number one, without him, he straight out of funds. He like my rock, my homeboy. Oh boy. I've been here since the I've been searching for reason, these demons been lurking. I'm looking at searches, looking for purpose, I'm seeking my reason for reason. I be any demon, but even me, please let it see what I'm freaking redeeming. I'm screaming and even I see him, believing in me, believing in the Father, believing in the Almighty Jesus. I got love for 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 Jesus. Jesus is my homeboy. Jesus is my homeboy. Jesus is my homeboy. Jesus is my homeboy. I got love for Jesus. Jesus is my homeboy. I would like to testify that Jesus is my brody, my favorite partner, my brother, my homeboy. Can I get a witness? Now we Can I get a witness? Can I get a witness? Can I get a witness? My homeboy. Can I get a witness? Can I get a witness? Can I get a witness? Addressing no accusations, got a real good lawyer. I ain't even got a fan. All I'm saying is Jesus ain't believers. Feeling demon, decent inconvenience, be the house of incomplete and never walk by what you're seeing, boy. We operate in faith. Read the word and just believe it. Ain't concerned about what you're thinking. I'm good, you know I'ma do it. And since Jesus be the homie, boy, I don't need your approval. G7 be the crew, shot in James, young Jerome, Brother Miller, Pop connected, homie. What you wanna do, brother? I got love for Jesus. 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 Jesus is my homeboy. Jesus is my homeboy. Jesus is my homeboy. Jesus is my homeboy. I got love for Jesus. Jesus is my homeboy. I got love for Jesus. 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 Jesus is my homeboy. Jesus is my homeboy. Jesus is my homeboy. Jesus is my homeboy. I got love for Jesus. Jesus is my homeboy.
So Vicky, you see now why it's a shame Sean wasn't here today. I love that. That group. They're fantastic. A couple of folks asked about the link. I'll get you the link after. It wasn't on the thing there. All right, we're going to shift focus a bit. Oops. There we go. So, my question for you is this. You heard them, by the way, you have to watch it about 5 times to get all the lyrics, right, because they're going so fast. Which I encourage you to do if you get a chance. But they did speak a lot about what it meant to be a friend of Jesus. What does it mean to you? What does it mean to be a friend of Jesus? Yes, Vicky.
Constant communication.
Constant communication. Very good. I don't know about you, but when I grew up in a Baptist family background for a while. And my definition of my encounter with God was like Sunday mornings and an occasional youth group. And then outside, I was like, he's totally off my radar. And as I've grown to in my maturity in Christ, I've come to realize, or at least have this sense that God is always around me all the time. And that is really kind of how we open that door up to communication, is just having a sense that God is actually there. He's someone you can always talk to, even when you don't maybe feel like it. That's good. Yes, Esther.
I'm struggling with, because when you are in a friendship relationship, you will actually want to impose reciprocity. You want to give and
Yes.
want to give, but it feels at times that God is always the one who will give us things.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
I'm not sure whether or how we should be a good friend to God
Okay.
on that particular context.
Okay, so you hit a key thing, which is the reciprocity piece. So we get eternal life, we get forgiveness for our sins, we get salvation, we get all these things from God. We become part of the community of people who love us,
What do
right?
we give back?
Well, that's what we looked at a couple nights ago at the evening service. So we talked about 4 things: time, talent, treasures, and teamwork. So giving of your time to others, giving of your talent. So like, let's say you're a good painter, you can come in and paint the church or help paint someone's apartment. Your treasures, so we talk about tithes and offering. Those are gifts that are used to further the work of the church. And then the final one is teamwork, which speaks a bit to the whole friendship piece, which is, you know what, there's, 5 or 6 people running a project. They're not quite doing it the way you would, but you're a team. So you give up a bit of yourself, just, okay, we're going to do this in community. It doesn't all have to be about me. I will give a bit so we can do this thing. So those, I call it the 4 T's, right? Time, talent, treasures, and teamwork. Those are all ways we can give. Yeah, so that's good. That's a good question. There's a start. Those 4 T's are a good start in terms of how we can start to return some of the great sort of things that God has given us for our friendship with Him. Anybody else? Yes, Maria. Yeah. Yeah. Very good. I mean, look at who Jesus hung out with, right? He hung out with prostitutes, tax collectors, like they were organized crime. I'm sorry. They were like the bikers of the, first century. That's what they were. He hung out with criminals. He hung out with the lepers. Right now we'd say, oh, those poor lepers, we put them in a hospital and we treat them, and there'd be a big leprosy fundraiser, and it'd go on GoFundMe, and like we would look after them, right? Back in those days, well, okay, you're a leper, go to the colony, and don't leave, or we will kill you.
Yeah.
And you can't come back until the priest certifies you as clean. So Jesus goes to the leper colony. So this idea of not judging people is really important. I think, Maria, that's good. And same in a friendship, right? Like you can lovingly, if you see your friends going down the wrong path, you can lovingly say, listen, I think you're drinking too much. Maybe just stop and slow down. I'm not saying this to be critical. I love you, right? So we have a responsibility to be honest with our friends, but we shouldn't say, well, I don't drink that much. That's kind of the wrong attitude, right? So yeah, don't be judgmental. Very good. Anybody else? Shot. Yeah,
Maybe like when you have a friend, you like kind of want other people to know them. So
yeah. Very good. Yes, that's a great example, right? So if you have a bestie, you want to show your other besties your bestie. And it's the same in the Christian faith. We have a responsibility to share our love for God with others so that they can also come to love God. God's desire is that all of mankind be reconciled, not just us. So yeah, sharing it around. So a couple things. This is great. The feedback you guys have given has been fantastic. I'll just bring out a couple other points. So Jesus had his disciples, right, the 12. But it's pretty clear from Scripture. Now he doesn't say in any verse, my besties are, like he doesn't do that, right? But there were 3 people who were present at his transfiguration. They were Peter, James, and John. And Peter, James, and John are also mentioned frequently in other parts of the Gospels. So we have a sense that those 3 were his besties, if you wanted to call it that, right? 3, kind of the first among equals in that group of disciples. So we see this. Also, Mary Magdalene is another example of someone who Jesus was close friends with. Yes, Mary.
Something that comes across to me. Some people get jealous of other people's friendships too.
Sure. Okay. And that's something we don't want to do, right? Absolutely. Yep. So in that context, we see there's 4 examples of people who had a particularly close relationship with Jesus. So he sort of modeled that for us. And Jesus loves us so much. He's already died for us. He had already died for us when we were in our sinful state. Now some people might say, well, if my friend does this for me, I'll do that. Right? It's conditional. Right? It's conditional. And what Jesus did was unconditional. He took the penalty long before anyone had recognized, that all the people could recognize that the Savior had already done so. So he stepped in ahead of time and provided that mechanism for forgiveness for us in our sinful state. So essentially, if I could summarize it this way, for those of you who are Facebookers, which I'm not anymore, thank goodness. I got so much spam it wasn't funny. What a door I opened up, man. Oh, it was terrible. I'm on Facebook. But what God has done is He sent the whole world a friend's request. And He's waiting for your answer. That's what He did for Christ. He sent you a friend's request. And not like Justin Bieber sent me a friend's request, which probably is not a legit friend's request, right? Because there's like 6 million people on his Facebook account. Like a real friend's request. Jesus wants to be your homeboy. So for your devotion challenge time this week. Number 1, I'd encourage you to read 1 Samuel chapter 18, verses 1, 3, and 4. You can read 2 too, but it's not really germane to what I was trying to speak to today. And also all of 1 Samuel 20, which gives the detail of all the trials and tribulations that Jonathan and David went through together as a result of Saul, Jonathan's father's desire to kill David. Fantastic story of friendship. And I guess my question to you would be, and it's to me too, is have you been hanging with your homeboy lately? Right? We all say Jesus is my homeboy. But really He wants to be your homeboy. He wants to hang with you. So find time in your week, this week, to hang with your homeboy. If you're not a follower of Christ yet, Jesus has sent you a friend's request and He's awaiting your response. And it's really simple the way you respond. It's not like Facebook where you click yes or no or delay. Because you got a delay button, right?
Ignore.
Ignore. Isn't there one where no, you know what I used to do? I just used not to answer them. That's what I used to do. It's just, they go, oh, he hates me. He didn't respond, you know? I wish they had like, I'm not thinking about it, but I love you button. Something more politically correct. It's not going to offend them. I think the person needs walk. Or if they have one that said, sorry, your message didn't get through due to server error. That would be good, right? And then they think, oh, it was a technical glitch. He sent you a friend's request. There's only 3 things you need to do. You need to believe that Jesus was the Son of God, that he died for your sins. So believe who he was, and we read that in the Bible. Repent, in other words, acknowledge that we're sinful, and ask Jesus to forgive our sins. His death on the cross and his resurrection allows that to happen for us. And then finally to follow him, which is a bit of what Esther was talking about earlier, is how do we reciprocate the friendship? Right? Well, the biggest way is sharing your faith with other people. That's the biggest way you can do it, right? But by helping with our time, talent, treasures, and teamwork, we can also help. We can be on that track for following Jesus. And at Calvary Church, what we say is that's the main reason we exist, is to help you on that following journey. Yes, we'll explain who Jesus is so that you can believe that he was who he said he was. And yes, we'll help you as you go through that salvation experience of repenting. Those things can happen pretty fast. But the follow piece is the whole rest of your life. And that's the part where you're, like, that's the most, it's one of the most important parts, right? It's the biggest commitment, I guess is how I'd say. They're all important. But this time-wise is the biggest commitment. And in terms of friendship, this is the biggest commitment. So today we looked at the issue of friendship. It's an important issue in a world where people are, I think, increasingly confused by what a friend truly is. Facebook does not help that discussion, by the way. It's also a world where people are, I find, are getting higher levels of loneliness, or an increasing sense of loneliness. It's becoming more problematic. For us, it's important we know that Jesus died for us so that we can be reconciled to God. That through Christ we have a friendship both with Jesus and with other followers of Christ. Remember that analogy of the 3 strands? So the reason, I often say the reason why we need this marriage, to me, and mine to her, is so strong, is because there's she and I and God in the middle. And oftentimes when people come to me in crisis, I find out that God is not in the middle. He's not one of the strands. So now you're trying to braid 2 ropes together, and it's just not very strong. It doesn't work. So a friendship should try and include Jesus in that, and that cord of 3 strands is not easily broken. Then finally, the church, this church and other churches, can be a place where you can find true friendship. That's one of the things we aspire to as the body of Christ, is to provide you a place where you can find true friendship in a very lonely world, or a world that might seem to be lonely. So we have soup on. Chris already explained 2 kinds of soup. We have bread. We got tons of food. We'd love you to stick around and hang out. If you have any questions about any of the ministries that Ideen briefed you on earlier, then please don't hesitate to ask the people that he pointed out. We'd love to have you involved in our community here. We would love for you to be our home boys. Or girls. Oh, girls. God bless you all. Let me close this prayer. Yes, Dana? Oh yeah, the newsletter for October is in. It's on the table. So if you want to know what's happening at Cafe this month, it's all on one sheet. I know some people are visual, some people are, readers, right? So we got some for the readers over there if you want to take a look at it. I'll just close this in prayer, and then we'll have lunch together. Lord, we thank you for our time together today. We thank you that we have the capacity to have you as a friend, even though you are God. It's kind of a remarkable thing. And I pray for everyone here, Lord, especially those who maybe don't have a bestie or a close friend, that this church, this community here could be an environment where they could find that special person and do that united in a belief in you, if that's sort of where they are. So Lord, I ask you now to bless this food to our bodies. Thank you for every single person in this room who is special to you, and we commit this day to you in your name, Lord. Amen.
So just for people who are new, the way it works is that you come by, grab a bowl. Because of health reasons, we have to serve you.